Should we call this meeting to order?
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, it is 7:03. Melissa, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
You can do it. Either way.
I'll do it. It's okay. You did the last several.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, I see Dan. Did everybody get a copy of the minutes? Anybody have any suggestions, changes, any spelling errors? Did we spell them this right?
I move they be approved as distributed.
I second. Yeah, they were great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. News from Concord Farms and Farmers.
Oh, pretty quiet.
Well, we had that, there was that article in the Bridge that where a bunch of farmers were interviewed recently. My brother actually works in Concord and he said, "Oh, look what I found on the counter at work." He texted me today.
You're famous.
That was nice to get some publicity.
It's a good article and it's a good new newspaper. It's a good new newspaper.
Yeah, I think it is.
Hi,
The
Emily.
journal is terrible.
Any other news? How was the conference?
It was
good.
pretty good.
Yeah. I thought it was very good.
Nice.
Nice to be in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. It was like packed,
Yeah, it
It
was
was,
very busy.
Yeah.
really busy. But it was nice. There was a lot of good stuff.
Mhm.
What'd you learn?
That's-
Not to put anybody on the
How to
spot.
farm.
How to
Take
farm.
the easy steps.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really always nice to hear people's like successes and failures because I think a lot of times so there's some farmers who when they present they're only presenting success and it's kind of like almost like, well, I'm never going to do that. That sounds like well, you're
Yeah.
really good at this, never mind. But most people present as like this worked, this didn't work. You know,
Right.
it's really nice to hear people talk about their experiences like that.
Yeah.
It was good. There was a lot of stuff about no-till, like not necessarily successes, but it was definitely a topic that came up over and over again. Some successes, but a lot more of like how to incorporate it in some ways, maybe not, maybe not fully going over to that, but how to just reduce tillage was like a pretty big topic throughout the whole conference.
Is this the future?
I don't know. It's definitely popular.
I thought the future was like inside, vertical in a
Yeah.
city or something.
I mean, it did kind of feel like a few years ago, all they were talking about was hydroponics. So it does feel like, okay.
Yeah.
The flavor of the day.
That was good. Steve, did you see anything interesting?
Yeah, I was interested. One thing that interested me that some things I'd heard about before and hadn't really kept it in mind is the issue of drip irrigation under plastic. And I remember a program a number of years ago where they mentioned that if you have drip holes in your line 6 inches apart, the water will go down and create a circle around each hole. But when the two circles meet, the one with the next one, they don't spread out any further. They just join together and go down deep. And that brings up the question of irrigating a wide bed on a plastic with a single drip line with the holes not too far apart.
Mhm.
And I think we're going to try doing a little surface experiment in the greenhouse with the bare ground, just sitting there and watch and see what happens that way. I'm debating trying a one bed this year with 2 drip lines under it. And then we can use the moisture sensors spaced in different parts of the bed to see what is happening. They were mentioning it in relation to tomatoes because the tomatoes could have a calcium deficiency because the roots weren't drawing from the whole width of the bed and the fertility rather than just the water. But the water is what makes it work.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, we have 2 lines of drip that we put under some plastic, and the only issue I have with it is that it's harder to line up when you poke the holes in the plastic, so they end up having more damage, like more holes in
Punctures.
the drip. And
that
I
must
could
be-
never find them in those double beds.
Must be twice as hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's like it's not as neat where you can just say, oh, on this bed it's on this side, and we'll just poke the
But
holes on the other side.
if you could put them like a foot apart, that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, then I think it might be a good system.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
For
Like
one
we
row,
work, normally when we run 2 drip lines, we're doing like 3 rows or something.
right.
And
us
so
too.
it's like really tricky to get everything exactly aligned. And if
Right.
somebody swerves a little bit,
Yeah.
I
You're
just
doing
hate the
it with
idea
a
of throwing all that
with a
stuff
single
away.
over.
Well, that's sort of interesting what you're saying, Steve, about the calcium, because I don't know, it never seems like we get a very uniform. I mean, we generally put 2 drip lines in, but it's often seems like it's much wetter in some area in the bed than the other. And with tomatoes, we sometimes, it's not uniform, but we get blossom end rot. And I don't know if maybe it has something to
That's
do
a
with,
calcium issue right there.
yeah. Well, let us know how your experiment works.
Yeah, I'll try to get it going here and see what happens.
Hey,
Anybody up to anything else?
Mark, is anything happening at Salt Box?
We're discussing how 2023 is going to go. Because no-till does require, at least for the first 2 years of going, it requires a decent community surrounding it to help just keep the weed pressure down as you're setting up all your layers. It's not something that we're able to do. The focus of the farm to table restaurant and the catering and the brewery. So we're looking at still trying to aim for some no-till, but how that can be utilized with like landscape fabric and maybe an on top instead of a covering of black plastic. And then also because of climate change and the challenges of crops during the summertime, I'm working on seeing what we can do for getting more crops grown that can store well and dosed out to the restaurant, dosed out to the on both spring and fall, just to try to, because we don't really have the resources to like focus on hoop houses or other mechanizations that could really help with climate change. We do drip irrigation. We do drip put apart holes, but we don't have the resources at this moment. So just trying to think outside the box a little bit to see how we can do this season. So it's been an interesting time here at Saltbox, but yeah.
Nice.
I think that speaking of just from like what people were talking about at the conference, like the labor issue around no-till is so big that is a real challenge if you don't have that. Like how to incorporate parts of that or how to modify it for your individual farm was really interesting.
Yeah. I
Challenging.
think in November meeting was a piece I didn't plan for was that like we had our spring beets and carrots, and we barely had to weed them at all. Some of our beds have been in no-till for a while. And we put a nice layer of compost on top. It was like 2 to 4 inches, wasn't even like 4 inches. It was 2, maybe 3, maybe 2 to 4. And it was just this beautiful crop. And it was like, wow, we did one weeding and like fast, and it was with the thinning, and it was done. It was like, holy crap. But then we harvested, and then we moved on to the next things and the next things. And what happened when we harvested, if you can imagine, pulling up the carrots, we're dredging up all past seeds, and then we couldn't get to weeding them.
Yeah.
Had to be moving on the other things. I didn't plan, and that really hit us hard. We had a lot of weeds, and we pushed really hard to try to get volunteer program going, but I'm only one farmer here, so
Yeah.
it was challenging, and we can't continue that because then you're just getting more and more weed seed, and that's the whole thing. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Is everybody starting to hire yet for seasonal labor, or is that a little ways off?
Have you started to?
No.
I mean, it's always good when we hear some people that were here last year want to come back. So a couple people at Christmas time were like, we'd like to come back next year. So that was exciting.
Nice.
Well, Mark, that's the big thing. Can never, I don't know, it's like, you have a beautiful area and there's some little teeny weeds, and if you could just take a hoe and run through there, everything would be fine. But then you're busy with other stuff, and then you look over and you got foot tall weeds, and it's 3 days to pull them, whereas it would have taken an hour to just do a quick hoeing through it before. But
I still like the Williamson tying weeder. You can really go over quite a lot of plants with that, and as long as you get there before the weeds are half an inch tall, it does a nice job. As long as you have some dry weather, which we did last year, but if it's raining all the time, that won't work either.
it's so the manufacturer's Williamson.
Yeah,
It's basically a tine weeder, like it's like
Right.
a Lally. There's a bunch of different ones, right?
Do you
right.
use those, Ryan?
We use a Lally, which is similar. And we don't use it on too many things. We use it to keep, like, if we make a bed prior to planting, we'll take the Lally over to try to like wipe out each successive flush of weeds without bringing up a whole lot of new ones, because it doesn't dig very deep. But I think there's a lot of different types, and they work. I mean, we'll go over some crops, particularly direct seeded beans and peas. We'll just go right over it, and it doesn't damage them at all. I think if you try to go in early with transplanted stuff, you rip a lot of it out unless you're removing the tine, raising the tines over the rows. And if you do that, then you're not getting the full benefit of the tool, because one of the best things about it is it gets weeds in the row as well as between the rows.
Yeah, I was amazed a few years ago. I used it on peas that were about 8 inches tall, and they just slid right between the tines, and they came out beautiful.
What I've often thought actually is it would be a wonderful thing. So we plant all these cover crops, which are large seeded vetch and rye and so forth. And we always get, depending on when we plant it, we get a flush of pigweed coming up or whatever, in August or September. And those things at that time of year, they flower instantly. It's not like early in the summer, they get huge. But the pigweed that germinates in August, they flower when they're this tall. And so even though you have a cover crop in, you have also these weeds that are continuing to produce seeds. And having like a batwing lily that's 18 feet wide or 12 feet wide or something that you could go over your cover crop just as it's coming up, because it's not going to dislodge that rye and that vetch, because or peas and oats, because they're anchored really well. Whereas these little tiny seeded Galansoga, pigweed, lance quarters, it would wipe them out. But I just don't know if we would ever have time to do that, and I don't know how much that costs, and so it always seemed like a brilliant idea that I'm never going to try.
How wide is that unit that you have, Steve?
Oh, it's not wide, about 5 feet or so.
Like a single bed.
Yeah,
That's what ours is. Ours is like 6 feet.
I guess that would be 6, I guess, yeah. That's what our beds are. Well, we've let Sam get an idea of what we're doing around here.
I was just gonna say, should we, now since Sam is on this call, should we move on to talking about the spring forum?
Yeah.
Steve, do you want to introduce Sam?
I haven't met her yet.
Are you talking on the phone? Yeah. I can introduce myself. Sorry, I had my camera up. I was doing a little work over here, but I was listening. So, hi everybody.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, so I'll give a quick intro. So I work at UMass. I'm a postdoc and a researcher here. I do a ton of things. I work on things like dual use solar projects. So some of the research that we're doing here as it's becoming more popular. I work with our soil testing lab to do some of the interpretations for emails. People get their soil test. What does this mean? What do I do? And a lot of my research as a graduate student was in dairy systems and nutrient management, and we had an emphasis on no-till. And so I still tend to work in that world, large field crops, dairy, pasture, hay, corn. And no-till in that sector is totally different from the vegetable sector. And I think based on what I've heard from Steve, and I'd love to hear everybody else's feedback on what you would like for the April presentation, I think that could be a benefit because I come in with, essentially I'm like, no-till is a lot easier for people doing, 40 continuous acres of corn that is been designed to be used with herbicide. It's a completely different story in vegetables. And I think sometimes a lot of the press that we have for no-till that applies to those field crops is a much bigger ask in vegetable crops. And so that's part of my goal to address, okay, what are these differences? What system specific differences? But I can confess, I have, an embarrassing amount of square footage, I'm sure, compared to what you do in my own home no-till garden. So it sounds like you have a lot of gardeners that come to this meeting. And so at that level, that's a totally different story than commercial vegetable scale production.
Awesome.
I initially thought that tillage itself was kind of a word that people might not quite understand what the purpose of it is. And, tillage is old, obviously. No-till is relatively recent in some fashions, although probably earlier forms of agriculture resembled no-till because they didn't have plows and they just had to do a little area. But for home gardeners and people who are agricultural enthusiasts to understand, what are we talking about when we're talking about tillage? What are we talking about when we're talking about no-till? And how does it apply to them? How does it apply to the farms that they visit, and so forth?
There was a wave of it came through about 40 years ago, plus or minus. It had some popularity, and I was on the Middlesex County Soil Conservation District at that time, and we bought a no-till planter that different farmers could use around, and that was popular for a year or two, and then it kind of disappeared.
Yeah, I always think it's funny when some of the dairy farmers I work with say, "Oh, we're flying rye on again." You know, we did that back in the 80s. And then
Oh.
it's a big, these things do tend to come back around. But so if there's anything specifically that you would like me to cover, or, and it would be helpful for me to know, like really who is your target audience? Do you want something that speaks more to the homeowner and community member? That sounds like they're a big part of your attendee audience, or do you want something that more so speaks to farmers? I mean, obviously a blend, but I'm not sure where the focus or emphasis really should be.
I
I
think,
was, well, I was suggesting to Sam that we have both audiences, and I don't know whether it'll be able to have a presentation that will address both farmers, like the farmers on the panel here and the home gardeners, because they're similar in a lot of ways, but not completely.
I think most of our audience for this is probably home gardeners, but I think this is also people who are really interested in what farms are doing also. So, and I think a lot of that is sometimes a like just, they don't know what it means. They just know it means a word. And so explaining what that might mean on your home garden versus what a farm might be doing on a larger scale, you know, just sort of like helping them get some context for what it means. And then also probably, a lot of people who attend this are gardeners, so they probably would like some just, what does this mean for me?
Yeah.
kind of-
Sam, I work at a farm where we have a ton of volunteers, and they're all really curious about no-till farming and the relationship between soil health and microorganisms. And, you know, for a lot of them, their epiphany is that healthy vegetables come from healthy soil, and if you focus on the soil, the vegetables follow. And they ask so many questions that this will be a really high interest presentation for them.
So when you define healthy vegetables, are you talking about things like nutrient density and the nutrients in your soil are going to
Right, I'm talking about nutrient density and the lack of disease and
Okay.
yeah, we've also just found, so we've done these in the past, and there's sometimes like a topic about just how farms do things, and it is like community members attend, not always to apply it to anything. They are just like, because the outreach we do is largely to our customers, so that's who comes, and they're often just like curious, like Brian said, like it just explaining what it is and sort of like what so that they're not even yet like looking to apply it to anything necessarily. They're just sort of like vegetable enthusiasts sometimes that are just there.
And I've heard this phrase, no-till or limited tillage or strip till, zone till, zone building.
I think
Actually,
a lot of them too have like, yeah, they know what a plow looks like maybe, but what does a plow even do? Might not.
what's it for? Yeah.
Yeah. Emily.
And a plow's not a plow, and yeah.
And what are the drawbacks? What does it do? What's it, you know, why do we use a plow as opposed to, you know, just kind of scraping away a little sod and planting a seed and seeing what happens?
Well, I think I mentioned to Sam when we were talking on the phone that one of the things that puzzles me a little bit that I've heard people say that if you plow, it adds too much oxygen to the soil, so your organic matter breaks down quickly. So the option that they prefer is to leave the cover crop on top and not plow. It seems to me that's in more oxygen to break down. And I'm not sure just how that works. I like to take a tall crop of rye and plow it to the bottom of the plow layer, and it'll act as a sponge in my mind. And I think your soils need a certain amount of aeration. I think that's dependent some on whether you have a well-drained soil or a sandy soil to start with. Some of my thoughts.
it's also different types of farming. The way that we farm, we're trying to get stuff as early as possible and throughout the season with quick turnaround. I don't know how we could do that with no-till, which is a more deliberative kind of process where you're growing a couple crops in a season and cover crops and letting them die, whereas we basically have to go in there and plow to get the soils to warm up and to get sufficient product from our acreage to supply our markets. If we were to adopt no-till, it would be for a very limited number of crops, or we would have to change our marketing strategy completely.
Emily, you've been trying to get in there.
Yes. I mean, I think everything that people have discussed and floated just now would be of interest. I mean, would make for a very rich forum. And I think the other topic to address and not merely touch on is climate change and the statistic that says that agriculture generally, globally, responsible for a very high percentage of carbon release. And maybe that doesn't apply in the Northeast. I had some idea that no-till is a way of trying to address the impact of farming on climate change. Not sure about that, but I do think bigger picture, there is this question of how can we feed ourselves and continue to steward the planet.
Emily, I think that's a great point. And one of the things that I like to point out, because I do feel that agriculture really gets picked on for climate change, is if we look at all the sectors, agriculture, energy just associated with electricity, fossil fuel, agriculture is the only sector that emits greenhouse gases that also has the power and actively returns greenhouse gases in the form of carbon to the soil. And so none of the other sectors do that. And I think ag is the least funded sector, and it's the easiest to pick on a lot of the times. And I mean, and they don't have the propaganda that other groups do. So especially with the general public, I want to make sure it's messaging that you agree with, because obviously there I'm on behalf of your commission, that we have to be really careful when we think about agriculture, that sometimes that equation has a few numbers missing when we talk about those carbon budgets. Great, that sounds okay.
We had someone come once to talk to us about using renewable energy in our greenhouses, and Brian pointed out that we mostly use the sun.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But, that's like the primary thing.
Right, you're like, we're good for approximately 6.3 billion years. But yeah. Well, I mean, so it sounds like, oh, sorry, I want to.
No, I said, Sam, that all sounds great.
Oh, okay, great. And so I'm happy to send you an outline too. I am going out of the country for about a week and a half next week, and so it'd probably be early February of what I'm thinking. Make sure it's in alignment, and I do just want to be upfront again, just on your behalf. My target audience is almost always farmers or it's ag service providers, and I'm usually telling farmers, like, if your neighbor, have your neighbor call me. They don't want you to spread manure, have your neighbor call me. And so I do really like to engage with like the farmer, neighbor, and public audience, but I definitely have like a farmer protective focused mindset, and I just want to make sure that's also okay for your commission and this conference. Yes, okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, we are. That's part of our sort of charge is, I don't know how to best, and Steve was better at explaining this, but like part of our charge is sort of like neighbor relations.
Okay, great.
And advocacy for farming. Yeah.
Like we essentially do this event. It's like to promote the Farms in Concord, remind people we exist, provide something like the topic changes and the goal is the same, which is just to engage people and have them be thinking about agriculture and have a chance to like answer their questions before our seasons get busy. So I think it's great.
I mean, I think another question for you, Sam, is I know you're talking about a presentation, which is wonderful and definitely something we want, but if we want to have like a little panel afterwards with some farmers talking about any of this, or if that's sort of like, just leave it as it is.
I think Q&A is always terrific.
Yeah.
Lots, people have questions. It's really great to get answers from you all directly.
I think especially, I don't know if it's possible with your format, if people could submit some questions in advance, because sometimes people ask these really technical questions. I'm like, hold on, let me look at like the solubility of zinc or something, like, and so that could provide the opportunity to answer some more detailed questions if they do take a little bit more prep or in advance.
We could do that though. We could set up a little Google form.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. And if there are a few farmers on the panel doing different practices, they can also help answer, like if it seems kind of too technical, but someone could just jump in with sort of like what they've been doing and what they see. It's not usually that specific, like other people can help answer the questions. I mean, for the panel.
In case coming from the valley, you'll feel you're really in the edge of the city here. You might be interested to know that a little over 100 years, Concord was the asparagus capital of the country.
Oh, of the country? Well, what
Of
is
the
it now?
country.
Hadley's probably trying to.
We're a backwater now.
Yeah.
We're the capital of nothing.
Yeah, it's funny. I think of Concord and I think of the prison. But the thing is, but then my brain also
Thoreau
goes,
and Emerson.
well, but they also have a great like dairy farming for prisoner program
Yes.
there, and so I'm like, oh yeah, the prison dairy program. And so yeah.
Now, I was dairy farming 35 years ago.
Right, yeah, big change there. So okay, I feel like I have a sense of like a big picture, pros and cons, like really focus on helping neighbors understand. But then also, Steve, I think it's easy to work in some of your more technical questions. And I think also what's coming down the pipeline, like in 10 years, soil health is going to be a totally different conversation. Like I think we really put the cart before the horse on a lot of the soil health stuff, and we're now going backwards and learning a lot. And I think in 10 years, we won't, well, I don't want to get in trouble for this. I don't know how much we'll be talking about cover crop above ground biomass. I think a lot of it is going to be about roots. It's just that roots are really hard to dig out of the ground and wash and study. And so no one wants to do that. But so hopefully there can be a couple, I'm serious. It's like a huge gap because it's not a good time. But anyways, so hopefully it can give some sort of like what's coming down the pipeline, what, I like to be careful about saying this is right or this is wrong when we still are actively learning big stuff on this topic.
Awesome.
So in terms of
maybe 2024 spring forum, we could just focus on roots.
Next year.
Yeah, I would listen. I'll be an audience member. I'm ready to hear about that.
should we canvass our customers for questions? I mean, do you think
I mean, I think promoting.
send out an email or something?
Yeah, I feel like when we send out the promotion stuff, we certainly could set up like a little Google link that lets people answer, like with a question box that people could send in questions if they had them.
And then you can pick and choose the ones you want to answer.
Yeah.
Right. Or emotionally prepare myself for.
They'll be there. Since we have Sam here, can we nail down a date?
I was going to ask about timing and dates. The room is available, I think, from 6 to 9 or something like that. I think in the past we've done the event starting at 7, maybe like 7 to 9. I guess I was just wondering like how long, Sam, you were comfortable speaking, or how long we were thinking that part would be, and then how much of the panel, and yeah, what evening, because this would be a weekday evening. Okay, so
How many people fit into the room?
I think 60-ish.
Where is it?
At Harvey Wheeler, Center Room. We
Yeah, I
haven't
know.
reserved it yet, but I have called and gotten all the info about availability. Would you say that fits 60 or so?
I think.
Oh,
it
yeah, at
works.
least.
Yeah,
I would say twice that, probably.
okay.
Hmm.
We're often conservative about the number of chairs we put out because we don't want a lot of empty chairs. Yeah, so looking at the calendar, we had talked about early April. Last I checked, most of the days were open, but they did say that Thursdays are often booked by a regular group. So I don't know if there's a different night that works for folks, but we could do, there's like Wednesday the 5th, Wednesday the 12th.
Wednesday, the 5th looks like the beginning of
Oh,
Passover.
we did, yeah, we did discuss this last time that there were holidays in here. So we don't want to do that.
What about the 12th?
Yeah. Why does this calendar not have holidays? Okay.
But you're the main attraction, Sam. Do you have days of availability or times that work best for you, or?
Well, you know what's funny? It's only in this moment that I've realized that perhaps I'm the main attraction. So, are there other presenters?
Well, we can have the panel at the end.
Yeah, we
And
can
then-
have more.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
It ups, and not that I was going to do a bad job, but now I'll definitely make sure I do a good job. Okay, so
That's putting pressure on you.
yeah, right. Oh boy. I don't have anything that, at least at this point, there's nothing on my calendar that I can't move if it needs to be. So, it's best to whatever works for you guys is fine for me. And you said 7 to 9 is usually the window.
I think the rooms starts to be available at 6, and we usually go and set up. I can look at an old spring form, see if we started any earlier.
I think it was 7.
I think
think
it was
so.
7.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds fine. It looks like the last day of Passover is the 12th. It ends at sundown.
Right.
Not that day either.
Well, we could do the next week as well. Had we talked about, is there a school vacation in there too?
I think the school vacation is that next week,
That next week.
21st.
We probably don't want to hit the 19th.
Yeah.
No, what about if you went right before Passover and did a Tuesday night?
Yeah, the 4th.
Oh, the 4th. Yeah, we
I
could do that.
have the smallest concern that I did lie, that I am actually putting on a soil health workshop that week that I have not yet scheduled myself. So stay tuned for that email. But I also want to be considerate that it's going to get into people's field seasons pretty quick at the end of April.
Yeah,
That's okay.
How about the end of March, March 30th? Thursday.
That works for me.
we
I
could
don't-
do that. The Thursday might already be booked for March. 'cause
Right,
we have
right.
a group that tends to do Thursdays.
So Tuesday or Wednesday, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Tuesday, I think, is the annual town election. They might use that space for
Voting.
the voting, but Wednesday, the 29th.
It is true that I asked if anything was booked for April, but I didn't ask about March. So like April was pretty open other than those Thursdays when I asked, but I can definitely inquire about March 29th. We did used to always do the spring forum in March.
That's right. I remember that. The sort of feeling that starting in April, all the farmers are just totally otherwise
Right.
engaged.
Do we
And
wanna-
these holidays are usually in April, so it's probably,
So
is
should we
that the-
tentatively try to do the 29th of March?
yes, maybe we could come up with a second choice, just Cause our next meeting, like I'll try to get the room reserved before our next meeting, cause it will be February by then. Is there a second choice option? Let's look.
What about the 27th, like Monday or?
Mhm.
Or do you want to try something? What was April was? Okay, you had the soil thing. Never mind. I mean, do you want to go to the end of April or is that too late? Pretty late.
I mean, that's fine with me.
I don't need to.
So when are people back from vacations and
I think the vacation week is the 15th through the 23rd would be the vacation week.
Mhm.
Is that right?
would it have to be maybe the last week in April or?
This is April 15th to 22nd. Yeah, so the last week in April.
Like the 25th or 26th?
Is Earth Day. That's perfect.
Oh,
Not a bad tie-in.
yeah.
25th
Wait, which
to-
one's Earth Day, Polly?
Well, it floats, but the real Earth Day is the 22nd, but Concord usually celebrates it on that Saturday
Okay.
after vacation week.
Oh, okay, so the 29th will probably be like.
Yeah,
the-
I think so. I think it's usually the 29th.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be a nice time to do it, actually.
Yeah. So Sam, do those three options work for you, the March 29th and the?
Yes, I put those both in my book to hold those for now. And like I said, I'll be out of town, so I'll be back on the 30th. And so I'll just hold those and whatever date you land on, that'll work for me.
Okay.
Great.
Should I do March 29th, everybody, or as the first choice? Or do people have any thoughts?
Is Earth Day a little late or not?
I think it might be nice.
Yeah, I don't have a strong preference either one.
I also feel like, is that when we finally start putting out some plants for sale? Like, Brian? I can't. Like we're just.
Also, when do like kids like soccer or baseball and all that gets going, practices,
Good
just
point.
for people.
Yeah, that's a good
Yep.
point.
Like maybe we want to be in March when people are more desperate for things to do.
Yeah.
All right, March is the first choice.
Great. And someone had this suggestion, we need a town employee to like sign off on it. I was thinking I'll contact Harvey Wheeler, find out if the date's available, and then I bet Delia would fill out the thing for us. Someone had that idea, so
Yeah.
I'll tell her about it.
Cool.
Okay, I'm gonna hop off then. Oh, unless you need me.
Oh, my only thing was how long you wanted your report, like just like for our advertising it. What should we say? Do you think like 45 minutes? I'm just wondering how long everyone wants to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, you tell me. Steve had said 45 minutes, and so I'm glad you mentioned that. I was gonna ask, is that 45 minutes and then questions after, or 45 minutes with questions? But that's
Probably questions after, right?
Yeah.
okay. So 45 minutes and then time after that built in for questions.
We
Yeah,
don't
the
want to
other-
let you off too easily.
I don't know how
Another
bored you want your
thing-
audience to be. No.
Do you have any visual aids or do you need a projector or anything?
Oh, I will make a PowerPoint. So I mean, it's not going to be
Okay.
text heavy, but there'll be some like, simple figures and pictures and stuff.
So you like the
And
screen.
if you don't have a power or projector, I do have a portable one that I can bring. But I will not remember to do that unless someone reminds me to. So if you need me to do that, just let me know.
And, I always had that one that we used this last year, so that's always an option.
That's great, Dan. That was so helpful.
Yeah. And I know we've used a screen at Harvey Wheeler before.
They
Yeah.
probably have their own screen there.
They
I
might.
think so.
And even a flat wall works if there's not a screen.
Thank
Okay,
you so
great.
much. Pam.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, guys. Nice to meet you, and we'll be in
Thank
touch
you.
soon.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Pam.
Thank you.
And will the farmers have tables around the room?
Did you say tables?
Yep. Just, I mean, free advertising,
Oh,
season coming up.
good idea.
We have for anybody.
Seedlings will be for sale starting in whenever, April. I always thought, I mean, I think that makes for a very colorful atmosphere.
Yeah,
What,
we've
the
got that.
tables or?
Well, not the tables themselves, but whatever you move to put on them or to prop up on them.
Yeah, it can be anything about your farm. It can be posters or produce or whatever.
Just make sure they're colorful.
We're gonna bring our plow in.
Good.
All right. Is there anything else we need to discuss about logistics around this?
Yeah, I guess that question, do we want tables and do we want food of any sort? We do like
Popcorn.
yeah, in the past had some refreshments.
I think that would be nice. Like just basic.
Yeah.
Where did we get it last time?
Steve is our usual
We
source.
could probably bring something in. It's nice to have an idea how many people are gonna be there, but I think it's very difficult.
Yeah. it's hard to
Yeah.
know.
Well, you know what might be helpful is if we do advertise it with a question portion, we might have a little bit of idea. If people submit questions, how many questions we get might give us somewhat of an idea.
You probably get 3.
Yeah. Do we
Most
have
cases,
like any
5.
kind of track record of what previous ones have, how many people have attended? Probably not.
Do you have any idea how many came this year?
I think 30 or 40 someplace usually, aren't there?
Probably
Yeah,
a
I'm
good
really
idea.
surprised. I think it seemed like at the Harvey Wheeler ones that we would get 40.
Yeah.
I feel like if we advertise this, we could get a fair amount. This is definitely a topic people want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I guess that brings up advertising. Do you think we can con Lisa into making a poster?
Yes.
She's not here. Let me volunteer.
So Happy will be doing the poster.
Doesn't Lise sometimes do the poster?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just- I just volunteer.
because she'll make one we can do on
Digitally.
digitally. I can always start to make one and she'll be so horrified by the result that she'll write it. So I think
We have ways of manipulating her. Is that what you said?
yeah.
We can think about it and get a little article in the Concord Bridge. I think that would help.
Oh yeah, we definitely could do that. I have the woman who wrote that article. I have her contact info.
Nice.
She wasn't from Concord though, which was interesting.
It's like New Hampshire.
But yeah, we probably go.
To till or not to till? That's the question.
Oh yeah, I was about to
Good.
say we need to go over the name. Yeah. Tutil.
That's pretty good.
I couldn't remember it. Okay. Great.
Else we need to talk about that one?
What's that?
Just anything else about the spring forum? we can discuss?
Sounds really good. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
Oh, well, just what about the panel?
Oh,
Who would be on the panel?
who wanted to volunteer?
Mark,
Mark.
Are you available?
Yeah, I could be on the panel.
Great.
Steve, Mark, and Brian.
Well, I think Steve was also.
He
Or-
said he was interested.
well,
Yeah,
and
wait,
what
Mark,
about gaining
you're in
ground?
Hendersonville.
Yeah, Gaining Ground said they would offer up somebody. I don't know who they meant. Polly, did
We'll
they?
offer up somebody. I think Anna will probably want to do it.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can ask her politely. We cannot voluntold her to do this.
How about you, Grace?
We are strictly plowing. We would be on the, dig right down to the center of the earth and turn it over. We're team plow,
Well,
definitely.
we want all perspectives,
Well, I mean, I think if we could just say Steve, maybe Anna and Mark. That might be really nice.
Like it's kind of a, I don't know, a feeling to work towards is, and I kind of do this with my farming mentor at Caretaker Farm, where there's more unified between tillage and no-till, because not every farm can try and practice no-till, and it doesn't make sense for every farm. And I don't know, I feel like there's good that happens with both growing, and I feel like if we try to make it too debatable, then we're losing focus on just overall growing with as good of health as possible. I don't know, just a thought I had with it, because where I we tilled, and it's beautiful crops, and he wants to incorporate some no-till because he sees the benefits and the goodness that's in there, but it's not really possible for what they're doing to completely do it. And supporting role for both, so that everybody's kind of aiming towards healthy growing, whatever that means for your particular farm, and supporting each other.
Mark, I think that's a great.
That's nice.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that this is a more nuanced conversation than just like, this is good, this is bad.
Yeah.
So my question a little bit is the to till or not to till, is that too polarizing the topic, like a title?
Yeah, but that's the title.
Okay.
You gotta have
Title
some
is supposed to bring them in.
Gee.
You bring them in with the promise of a debate, and then you bore the hell out of them with nuance.
Maybe instead of, cribbing Shakespeare, just say, how about just till ? No till ?
What's
yeah.
it all about?
I don't know. Let me see if there's a Thoreauvian way we could say it.
No.
I mean, they both have a place in different settings, and I think if we get that across, right, that's,
Yeah.
Right.
We draw them in with jumping worms.
So what if the title is, we often have like a descriptive sentence. So like the title can be, Emily, you really don't like that title, do you? But
Which, to till or no? No, I really don't. I think that's easy.
Great.
What more opprobrium can I heap on it so that you won't use it?
Easy is not opprobrium. That's good.
yeah, we like it. But what if there could be a sentence under, like we usually have like a subtitle, because there's usually some title that doesn't actually like explain what it is, and then we'll write like a sentence underneath it to make it a little more clear what it is, and have like the nuance thing, or just like kind of reel them in.
What do you suggest?
How about breaking ground? How to do it?
I can't
we don't know, break it.
Right.
can't write a
Well,
sentence.
it could be something like everything you wanted to know about no-till, or everything you don't know about no-till.
But see, that focuses it more on no-till than,
Mhm.
I mean, I like the point Brian's made about, well, both Brian and Mark, about it's appropriate and works in certain settings, but not in all. So, I mean, kind of trying to take it more towards,
Yes.
No.
Okay, how about all you need to know about tilling or tillage?
Tillage.
Let's talk
Tillage
about
explained.
right?
Everything you
Tillage
always wanted to know.
explored.
about tillage, but we're afraid to ask.
We're putting no-till in its place.
The Good Earth, that's a title that's never been used.
How about
There you
no-till,
go.
brought to you by Roundup?
What if it's something more like what tillage has to do with growing vegetables? Like, I'm not sure if people even know,
Yeah,
like everything you want to know about what tillage has to do with growing vegetables.
Jethro Tull. Savant or fool?
You
He
know,
invented the plow. Come on, people.
Could it be just like, let's talk about tillage, exclamation mark, and then like
Yeah.
like a discussion about,
I like that. Let's talk about tillage.
Very nice.
Wait, as the
Does
title?
that fit your criteria, Emily? Let's
I,
talk.
I like it. Yeah.
Well,
But,
tillage and
you know, I'm one person. I'm not even on the committee.
well, if we did like,
So-
let's talk about tillage, exclamation mark. And then we had like a little subline that was like,
and
to till or
no-till.
not to till, or
Yeah.
Oh, no,
What is
no,
it
no,
all
not,
about?
not exclamation mark, dot, dot, dot.
dot, dot, dot.
Ellipsis. is
Wait,
you
what
want.
about, let's talk about tillage, dot, 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 and no-till. Like, I think we need the name no-till as like our.
Yeah,
real-
that's right, that's a hook.
I
Yeah.
think we need that word.
About something underneath like the benefits and challenges of tillage, low till and no till.
Yeah.
Something like, you know, because there's good and challenge both.
I like Mark's words.
Yeah.
Now we complicated it with 3 options.
Take out the low
Phone
till.
till.
Wait, so Mark, can you say that again though? Because I've
I've got it written down, I think.
You got it written down, great.
Because I forgot.
Okay. I'm just gonna
Came
read
out of your
over-
mouth so well.
This is like popcorn writing here. I'll read over what I wrote down from everybody. Okay, let's talk about tillage, dot, 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 and no till, exclamation point. I'm not sure if that works, but the benefits and challenges of tillage, low till, and no till. And what
That's
does all of this tillage have to do with vegetables?
What's it all about?
Or what's tillage all about?
There you go. I still think we should get those jumping worms in there somewhere.
They can be in the poster.
They kind of do their own kind of tillage, I think.
I feel like I do this with our own farm stuff, and I really feel like we should mention vegetable. Like, I feel like we need a little context, like that we're talking about growing vegetables.
Vegetable-tillage, vegetable tillage.
Yeah, that's good.
What the till?
And what it all has to do with growing.
Well, did you say what's tillage got to do with vegetables?
Well, I was just trying to put it in the sentence that we had to make it one sentence. So I was wondering if we could do. Not good at editing.
How
also.
about vegetables? What's tillage got to do with it?
Just tillage and farming in Concord.
Vegetables, what's tillage?
Well, I feel like our guest is not gonna focus on Concord.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, what if let's talk
I
about.
don't think she's
tillage.
going to focus much on tillage either. Is she going to talk mostly about no-till?
I think she'll talk about both. I mean,
Okay. I couldn't tell.
What if it's, okay. The sentence after the title, the benefits and challenges of tillage, low till and no till, and what it all has to do with growing vegetables.
That sounds nice.
Yeah,
But what's the difference between, isn't tillage the general heading and underneath, within it is low till and no till? So
No,
tillage is not separate
You have
from
to
low
come
and
to the
no?
seminar to find out.
yeah.
If you come to the program, you can
Yeah.
find out.
Tillage is the physical disturbance of the soil, which introduces oxygen, enlivens it for a brief period of time, whereas no-till is kind of avoiding disturbing the soil and avoiding inverting the layers of the soil and allowing, like, depending on what kind of no-till you use, allowing microbial communities to develop undisturbed. So tillage is essentially
So
disturbing.
tillage is a thing rather than a
It's a physical
general
activity.
category,
Well, there's a lot of different types.
Ways to till and
right?
types of tillage.
Should we come back perhaps next time with a short list of
Titles.
titles that we could maybe vote on?
Sure.
Sure.
That sound good?
Sounds good.
Because probably next time we'll have to start, next time will be February, so if we're aiming for March, we have to have our promos ready to go. So that sounded good to everybody?
Yeah, I was thinking even just with these like first ideas, we could have the start of a poster done and we can like change the
Wordage a little bit. Yeah, I think that's great. All right. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
You guys look thrilled. All right, town paper bag charge update letter.
I liked your letter.
What did we think?
I think your letter is great.
Very good letter. Yeah.
Did we address everyone's concerns? I mean, I know we have like more concerns, but like, did we hit the main points? Do we think this is the most compelling? Did I spell everything right? That's always an issue.
I can't speak to that.
I made Brian read it first, all right?
So I would go ahead with it. Do we need to vote?
I think we need to vote.
Okay, I
my only
propose that we use your letter.
My only question
Your
before we
letter
put
to
it
the
to a vote
town.
is, the only thing I was gonna change is maybe make this letter from both me and Melissa, or if we should make this from the entire agriculture committee.
I would say from the committee, right?
I think the committee.
So just like literally say like, because right now I signed it like Liza Bemis on behalf of the Concord Agriculture Committee, but I can just literally say from the Concord Agriculture Committee.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I think you should,
Oh,
I think you should state your name on behalf of.
Can I put me and Melissa? Or do it have to be?
Right, right.
Because
Both of
we're
you,
co-chairs? Okay,
exactly.
okay.
And this gets sent to,
The Board of Health in some fashion. I don't know if it's the Board of Health, I believe, is in charge of this. So I don't know if we're sending this to the health department directly, which may be more responsible for this, or if we should send it to the board. Does anybody have any?
Maybe both or?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
both. Copy
I would say it's important to get it to the board.
to a board, a copy of the select board.
Okay. So Board of Health
So
and
this is a- oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Just this is a minor edit, but
Yep.
just maybe selecting the whole thing and make sure it's in the same font. There's some that seems like it was copied and pasted smaller.
entirely
I can
possible.
only deal with grammar and misspelling, okay?
Well, that's fine because Lisa always tells me I mostly deal with saying that things should be bigger or
Really know this too, because it depends on like how you're looking at it. Because when I look at this in like the Word format, it looks like the same. But then when I'm looking at it in preview on my email, it looks like, yeah, like there's a copy and paste thing.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'll try to fix it. Should we take this to a vote? I guess, how do we propose this? Should be Concord, or is this what we would like to send to the health department, this letter?
yes.
Would somebody like to
I propose that we send this to those parties that we sent.
Yeah,
I second.
No,
Grace. And Kent, I think we're gonna need to vote on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye.
All opposed? Nobody. All right. I will figure out how to send it. Thank you, guys.
Good
Uh,
job, Liza.
Thanks, Stan. All right, Melissa is up next with the town annual report review. Did everybody get a chance to read this one?
Mhm.
Another good piece of writing.
Very good,
Excellent, Melissa.
very good. Very good.
Anybody
You're
have any comments?
muted.
I pasted the beginning is the same. I looked at some old ones and they were way longer, but
no, they don't need to be long.
No.
yeah. What, do we have any edits before, so I'm gonna submit it tomorrow morning.
I move that we submit it as written.
I think there's a couple things.
Yeah.
Like, with the help of, in the last paragraph of the draft, it says, with the help of volunteers from the community as well as the horticulture students, the expanded veggie racetrack and veggie decorating actives,
Oh, yeah, yep,
should be like activities.
yep, definitely.
There's one other thing, but I'm not finding it.
Oh, no.
It's not crucial. Yeah, I don't see it. Anyway, it's fine.
Was it in the,
I thought it was in the same one. I'm sorry, I didn't notice it. Now you're gonna lose sleep.
Yeah. Well, I also could just read over it in the.
Oh, no,
morning.
here it is. It's the second sentence in that last paragraph. It says the event was very well attended, operated smoothly.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
great,
Anytime.
perfect, done.
We math teachers take our editing very seriously.
Great.
Hello?
I move that it be sent as amended.
I'll second it.
Great. I don't think we need to vote.
Um, that. And then did you see the the photo and the caption? There's like a picture of Lisa's dad. He's the only person that I like identified in it because he's like the front of it.
I like that photo because it shows how busy it is.
A lot
Yeah.
going on in it. That's good.
Yeah, it looks busy.
Hmm.
Any ideas for a better caption? I wrote a busy veggie car decorating and racing station at the Agriculture Committee's annual Ag Day Farmers Market.
Hey.
Can't object to that. I mean, we could
It's a
start low bar and move up to splendid. That does the trick.
Okay, great. Done. I will send them both in tomorrow.
Thank you, Melissa. very
Thank you.
Yes.
Next on our agenda was some talk about farm tours, which I think Happy was.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't anything urgent. It was just that she thought maybe in the early spring we could see the Colonial Gardens greenhouse set up because she was there recently and Yeah, so I think we just ask her next time.
Moving on, the farm video update has no update. I've bugged Tori. I haven't heard anything back. So I think the plan is to continue making those videos, but it's a little bit up to what time she has to do them. But I know we have some people we wanted to cover this year that we didn't cover last year. And hoping to get a few more of them on YouTube. So I'm hoping she'll still be able to do them, but I haven't heard back from her.
I don't know if I want to know, but she ever finish the one that she was doing for us?
I thought she finished the videoing because didn't she come back and interview?
Yeah, she did. So I mean, I don't know if it ever got put up or not.
And that's what I emailed her about, to just see if it had gone up, but I haven't heard back. But she also, with the holidays and stuff, may be pretty backlogged. So I will bug her again if I don't hear from her. Or if she's watching this video, hi. She does edit these. Hi, Tori. Quick Ag Day logistics update. I have reached out to the bookstore to try to get that window display happening again. Dawn did get back to me. She was gone for the holidays, so she's going to get back to me about what week is still open. Hoping to get one a little closer to Ag Day, but whatever they have available is probably what we're going to get. We are on the town calendar. The town still hasn't officially approved the event, but last year they didn't approve it till pretty closer to the event. But we are on the town calendar and we were on the police calendar. The other thing is the West Concord Green Thumbs, which is the other garden group, I think, in town, would like to come next year, which I think is great. They reached out just to get in touch and wanting to come next year. They also were interested in potentially selling bulbs there. I told her we historically have not allowed sales of non-products they weren't grown in Concord, you couldn't sell them. I told her we would be revisiting, see if that rule was still true. She said they want to come anyway, even if they can't sell bulbs. But I just wondered how do we feel about that rule?
Isn't that kind of early in the season to be selling bulbs anyway? Or
yeah, I mean, it's not super early, but a little early.
You can hold them.
Yeah.
I mean, certain kinds of fundraising might be outside the rule. I don't know.
I mean, so the nonprofits that come don't usually sell anything. Like they usually are offering stuff for free.
Yeah.
Like the sustainability department has brought like little tree seedlings for people to plant, but they're free. And like what did the pollinator group do this past year? They had little pollinator friendly plants they gave away for free. And like Muscataquid this year had a free like food, like vegetable stamping for kids, which was super cute. So they haven't traditionally sold anything.
I kind of agree with Steve that, it should be getting back more maybe to, the farms in Concord, and, that seems like it would just even push it more into direction that we might not want to go.
Yeah, I feel right now the line is like pretty clear. It's like if you didn't grow it in Concord, you can't sell it, which seems it's a clear distinction. It might be a little bit of a slippery slope to start allowing sales of other stuff.
There was one nonprofit that was like a nature one that was selling t-shirts one year that hadn't asked, and then they just had them, and I had been wondering. So I think we should like reiterate, if we say no, which we've been pretty strict in the past, and I think that's like helpful, not to like make certain exceptions, but we should like when we contact nonprofits, we'd want to think like what there is.
I mean, I think in general, so going over like what are the bounds of even like what nonprofits we're allowing to come to this event. Like this past year we sort of made a what's the rule? Like a point system almost. We didn't really make a point system, but you know what I mean? Like if you come before, you were a higher priority than somebody who was brand new. If you were more ag focused nonprofit, you got higher priority than somebody who was not an ag focused nonprofit. We might want to, as we get closer to Ag Day, and we start reaching out to these groups again, just sort of have a more clear definition of what we're allowing or not allowing to be there.
I think that's what I'm hearing from Steve, but Steve is here, and maybe no nonprofits. What would the market be like if there were no nonprofits? Is that what Steve has in mind? If it's farm focused?
I was thinking more about selling
Hmm.
various things that don't come from farms. I think it's good to hold the line.
Okay, so I'll get back to her and say, that's probably still what we're thinking for this year, but when we reach out to everybody, we'll have a more clearly defined rules. Does that sound good? I mean, basically it was like last year, we have had a couple of nonprofits that have nothing to do with agriculture, environment, food, want to be there. And some of them it's, or just having nothing, like it feels like there's certain things that sort of feel like it naturally falls within what should be going on here. And then there are certain things that you're like, not that they aren't a wonderful nonprofit, but do they fit with what we're trying to do?
Well, we are getting to a space limitation too, so that's a reason to maybe have a limit.
Yeah, I think we need to be a little bit clear about,
Yeah, and then
And
if
I kind of like, I'm sorry, I kind of like Steve's point after the last one that maybe, the way it's arranged, or so, maybe you'd have more on the periphery, things that are less that aren't farms or farmers, but
yeah, like push them to more the outsides of the
is that accurate, Steve? I don't want to be talking for you,
Yeah.
but
No, I think it is a farmer's market, and it's nice to have some associated visitors, but we don't want them to dominate the market or take over the main theme of it.
So speaking of that, you guys know I'm on the outreach committee for the 250th. They're starting to talk with some of the churches and other sort of like space organizations that have like large spaces to rent. There's been a lot of interest in Ag Day because the past 2 years has been so good. Some of the surrounding sort of community, particularly thinking about churches, but we're interested in having like almost like a community lunch supper thing at the same time as Ag Day. As sort of like drawing off the same idea, like almost like a stone soup idea, but not exactly the same thing. And I was wondering what you guys thought about that, about having events that are happening the same time as Ag Day. We've had a lot of success with the concert at the library, but I don't know if people feel that this might be different or competing in some way, or if we had any opinions about it.
Will this be during it or following it?
It could be either. We sort of could tell them if we had a preference.
I think following would be great.
Yeah.
right. I
Sort
mean,
of like-
wasn't there a couple years there was talk about someone was going to do some kind of beer?
Yeah.
And the idea would be that would have happened afterwards. I don't know if that ever actually happened, but
It didn't, but that was the talk. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like, it's a somewhat small window of time, and if you did start having a lot of other things going on, it might detract from what we're doing.
Okay.
Would this be for this coming fall, Liza, or
Actually,
the
would be.
following year?
I'm a little unsure, but it's either for this upcoming year or potentially next year. They're in general talking about trying to do community dinners, and sort of
Right.
just to like get. I'm not entirely sure the full reasoning behind community dinners, but the idea of like getting people together and sort of celebrating. And they like, Stone Soup was always very popular. They always love Ag Day. They're looking at events around town that are sort of very community building, and trying to figure out how to either make something similar or build off of those. But yeah, I think they potentially could be looking at it for this year.
Is Stone Soup a thing of the past, or might it happen again this year, Steve?
Well, I think it might. It depends. I think all the restaurants are so strapped for
Yeah.
personnel that nobody's interested in trying to do anything outside. But that hopefully would change.
Yeah, I think it's still on pause. Steve, I will warn you that the 250th committee might be reaching out to you because they might want to hold a dinner at Barrel Farm.
Oh, okay. Well, one thing I was going to mention to John Arena that when you look at the Minuteman with his coat on the plow, I think certainly there should be a place for agriculture in it, but I haven't come up with an idea of what that might be.
I think we definitely need to come up with something that or event or some way we could participate in this. And that could be hosting an event in the spring of 2025 or tying the forum to it in some way, the spring forum of that year. They are going to do a big parade. I don't, if we wanted to try to do like a float, that's probably a possibility.
I don't know whether I mentioned before or not, but we do have a 24-foot-old Army wagon that we used as a float in one of the parades a few years ago, and that's available if anybody wants to think of some ideas and develop it.
Well, my aunt has all those vegetable costumes from years of Muscataquid. So if we don't want to dress up as carrots, that is an option.
Do they fit you?
Yeah. You can be a radish if you want to. It's full adult costumes.
I think I'll choose kohlrabi.
But that's something that we should probably just keep thinking about, is how we would, if we want to have our own events that are related to this, or if there's some way that we could tie into something else that somebody else is doing.
I think we should do something at the Farmers Monument, or somehow make sure that gets highlighted in there, because I seem to think since it's on like the opposite side of town, it kind of gets forgotten about. And it is there. I just don't know what.
It's a good point though. Yeah. Well, we have plenty of time until 2025.
A lot of time to think about it.
We have plenty of time to brainstorm. We can keep thinking about it. Is there Melissa, do you have any other Ag Day updates, or did I cover them?
No, I think that's perfect.
Okay. Is there any other business we should discuss? Public comment.
I've signed up for that course at the Village University. It starts tomorrow.
Well, that's exciting. Emily, you'll have to tell us how it goes.
I will. The sessions are in the morning, but fortunately they're being recorded, so I may not, see them live. But
cool.
What's the course, Emily?
It is a series on the farmland of Concord, beginning with Indigenous people and going through, I think Saltbox is the last speaker, but
Fabulous.
Lise or Melissa is speaking, Steve is speaking. Margie Brown from the park starts things off tomorrow. And Richard Smith, who is the Thoreau reenactor, I think is doing the 19th century. Graduates from Beans, next to his cabin at Walden, to industrialization and its impact on farming in the 19th century.
That sounds just fabulous.
Yeah, you'll have to give us an update.
I signed up for it too. Yep.
Oh, good. Both of you will.
Yeah.
How does February 9th look for the next meeting?
Fantastic.
Right? the second Thursday in February.
It's a week after Groundhog Day, so we'll know.
Perfect.
Man.
So far, it's been a little warm. All right. Anybody else have anything else you want to say? No?
Just hello.
Hi, Lois.
Hi, Lois.
Hi. It's good to see everybody.
Nice to
And
see you.
You too.
Yeah, I enjoy, your things. While you were talking about the till stuff, I said, well, I understand something of it, but then I said, well, what do things, you talked about cultivating versus tilling, and like that whole aspect of tilling is, I didn't know it was like complicated. Like, if it's on the surface or it goes deeper. And then tonight, you're talking about when you use the machinery, how it works and such. So maybe, I mean, like some of you know who I am, but I'm like from the pollinator group, and I'm kind of a dangerous person because I just started learning about some of this stuff. I mean, my dad had in the 40s, and I remember as a kid, having a garden, what do you call it? One of those wall gardens and stuff. And I've gardened, like vegetable garden for a long time over the years. And now it's native plants in front of my little place at Concord Housing Authority, which we're working on them so that we can put some native plants that can at least feed the bees and the pollinators. But when I looked at the till stuff, the cultivating in the till, I realized I didn't know what it was to speak of, other than, it aerates the soil somewhat. But the whole thing about it, your discussion assumed that people knew more than I know. And I just, just as a, the general public. So you might want to back up and think like somebody who doesn't, people who don't know. Just a thought on that, what you're asking the gal from UMass, because UMass had, somebody comes like, a grad student or the UMass has a good, what do you call it? Like people think well of UMass horticulture and agriculture types of things. So it has a good like sound to it, and a bit of like authenticity type of thing. So, but I think you just have to back up to what it is. So you're all talking about the same thing at the same time. And us people who are the neophytes can understand it. Because yeah, there's a lot of talk about no-till lawns and stuff like that, but it's specific. So anyway, just some thoughts, feedback on it. And from a person who doesn't know kind of person.
What would be a good title, Lois, for
The
it?
title, I went I don't know, because that's,
Yeah.
I
Tricky.
try to put things together that way too, but it's almost like, what is tilling? Something is, it's almost like that mentality, but that's not a catchy title. But it's like that kind of thought would be where I would be at, is like, what is it?
Yeah.
An
I mean, I think
explanation.
that's the reason for the forum, is
Right.
that I think that to explain what these terms mean to some degree, because people bandy them around all the time, but don't
Right.
necessarily know what they mean.
It's almost like, what is it and why should we care?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, Louis. That's good.
I just, I'm one person listening, and, I'm kind of one, I need to learn person.
Oh, it's great.
It's good feedback.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I love coming to the ag, Zoom meetings. This is the best meeting in town.
Of course.
Like real,
Flattering.
there's real people doing real things. Is how to me, one of the beauties of Concord. I mean, I've been here just less than 20 years, almost 20 years now. One of the most beautiful things is the farming. And the first time I ever came here was back when there were like Quonset hut things kind of over where Emerson Playground is, and that they were the extension service was there.
Yeah.
It was like, that's like way long time. I mean, I lived in New Hampshire at the time. I had to come down here for that. And, you know, like I always think of the farming, not that always, but a lot of times I think of a lot of the farming part of the town. And I used to video some stuff in town. I videoed when they did the Barrett, is it the Barrett's Mill? The farm, the piece there that's part of the national park. I did video on that. I can't lug the equipment anymore, so I don't do video anymore. But anyway, just to let you know, and you know, if I come up with a good name, I'll let you know.
Great.
Awesome.
I like the word that you use, cultivating. Cultivating goes well with tillage, cultivating great soil.
They're both very mysterious terms that people use in certain ways, but farmers use them in more specific ways.
Right.
Isn't cultivating
Like when a
weeding?
farmer talks about cultivating, they're talking about killing weeds generally. But that's what cultivation is to a farmer. But cultivation writ large is just all types of growing crops.
Nurturing, bringing them along.
But if you talk to a farmer and you say cultivation, like a cultivating tractor is a specific type of tractor that is just designed to kill weeds.
Okay.
That's what cultivation means.
All right.
Doesn't mean growing. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it means killing.
Maybe we should start with a vocab.
Didn't know.
See, that's where the general public and the general use is very different than the farmer specific use.
Right.
And I think that's when you can open our eyes to your use, I think that's really beneficial. It helps us to understand, especially when things like there's legal things or laws or rules or that kind of thing. It makes a difference if the public has some understanding of sort of the farm technicalness of it versus the popular usage of words. So I think it's helpful.
Sounds good.
Thanks. Thanks again.
Thanks, Lois. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Are we ready?
Best hour in town with the best people.
I like these compliments. All right, guys. Are we see each other next week? Does anybody want to adjourn the meeting? Who moves
I
to-
will adjourn the meeting.
Dan is moving to end the meeting.
Is there a second?
I will
Second.
Okay.
Thanks, guys, so much. Thank you for
Adios.
coming.
Okay.
Talk to you.
Bye-bye.